Hey friends, Assalamu alaikum. How are you all doing? Thank you so much for joining us today for this very special live transmission with Dr. Mazen. Happy Easter to everyone who is celebrating. Hello Amber, Nikhil writes, hello Empress. Hi Tamina. We'll just start in a few minutes. I just want to give other people to join in. Assalamu alaikum, Healing Orbit. Hi Juan. Hi Muhammad S. Hussain. Assalamu alaikum. I'm here with my husband. Yes, I'm hoping that today's session is going to benefit so many people, as we are going to clarify a lot of misunderstandings and misconceptions about emotional and energy healing. Assalamu alaikum Aruj, Fahad, Instaki, Yaya. So while we are waiting for Dr. Mazen, let me tell you guys what's the purpose of today's session. In today's session, we are specifically aiming to clarify misunderstandings and misconceptions about holistic healing, emotional healing, energy healing. I've been doing this work for 3 years now, and I have seen in my practice again and again that there's a lot of resistance from my Muslim brothers and sisters when it comes to the work that we are doing. It's only because we are not informed enough, because this is something that's, you can say, very recently all of these new findings have come up and these modalities have emerged. So we don't, for most people, they don't know how to relate it to our faith, and are there any clashes there? Are we doing the right thing or not? So I'm very blessed that Dr. Mazen is joining us today to talk about all of this and more, so that we can clear all these misconceptions and take care of our emotional health using these new tools that we have. So let me see, Dr. Mazen, are you here? All right, so Dr. Mazen is already here. So before I tune him in, I want to share with you guys a little bio about him, because it's important that you guys know all his credentials and everything. Dr. Mazen is a doctor of naturopathic medicine, and he's the founder of Forward to Health, a holistic wellness and educational initiative. Dr. Mazen practices holistic medicine, weaving together homeopathy, herbalism, hydrotherapy, and lifestyle medicine with a specialty in somatic mind-body trauma therapy. He has studied with the world-renowned Hakim Arculita for several years and taken transmissions from him. Dr. Mazen has also spent time in Amman, Jordan, studying Arabic at Atassi Institute with local scholars. He has patients and students across the world. So let's welcome Dr. Mazen, and let's get started. Okay. I've sent him the request. It's connecting. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Mazen.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. How are you doing, Aisha?
I'm good, alhamdulillah. How are you?
Alhamdulillah, I'm well.
I love the background. Where are you?
Here we are. We are in Indiana,
Awesome.
the countryside of Indiana.
Awesome, perfect. Looks good. Yeah, it's good to have that, water energy come in.
Alhamdulillah.
All right. So, Dr. Mazen, we are so excited. Thank you so much for joining us today. There is so much that we have to cover. So let's dive in. I want to start with the basic concepts of Tawheed. What are the different parts of our soul holistically, and how trauma fragments our soul? Why do we need to take care of that?
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Wa la hawla wa la quwwata illa billahi al-ali al-azim. Okay. Alhamdulillah. Amma ba'd. So, in terms of this holistic healing, what we have to really understand from the beginning that we have to bring our deen front and center.
Absolutely.
And we have to bring the principles of the religion so that it informs all of the different aspects of our lives, including our medicine, including our healing. And so the Muslims have always had this system of medicine called hikmah, which means wisdom.
Yeah.
Right? Hikmah means wisdom. And so the wisdom system of medicine, if you will, is utterly informed by everything Islam, right? From A to Z. And so because as Muslims, our primary principle, our first principle is La ilaha illallah, is the oneness, is the tawheed. Everything has to go back to that wholeness, that oneness that is La ilaha illallah. فَعْلَمْ أَنَّهُ لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهِ, as Allah Ta'ala says in the Quran. So know deeply and realize that there is no God but Allah Ta'ala. And so when we bring that in application to the healing work, we have to recognize that Allah Ta'ala is one, and similarly, the world is one. The creation of Allah is one, and man, capital M, men and women, mankind is one. And so when we understand that, you understand very much, because now you are not a machine, right? The modern world will tell you, you are nothing more than a conglomeration of parts. And if one part breaks, we'll just fix the part and that's it. And they override this first principle, that you are whole, that you are one.
Yeah.
And as soon as we get that now, you get very much. And so one of the principles of naturopathic medicine and of hikmah is tole totem, treating the whole person, treating the totality of the individual. And this is something that again, it's critical that we maintain that, because if not, you're going to disrupt and you're going to suppress and you're going to fragment more than what's already happened to the individual.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. And so in terms of, man, obviously there's dimensions of man. So within the oneness, there are multiple layers. And so, the main, differentiation we can say of man is in 3 levels. Ruh, jism, and nafs. Spirit, mind, if you will, and jism, body, right? And so this becomes the way that Hakim is able to focus. Where is the charge? Where is the problem? Where are the indications of the imbalance? That we can bring balance to the organism and restore wholeness once again. It's always about restoring the oneness, restoring the wholeness, restoring the integrity of the whole. That is the fundamental principle. And that is where Tawheed comes in to medicine. Because it's not an abstract thing that we're looking for, pain-free or suppression of symptoms or whatever, but how do we restore balance to the whole organism, mind, body, soul, such that they can become able to aspire to the highest potential of their lives, right? Which is the worshipping of Allah Ta'ala, right? Worshipping of Allah Ta'ala is the purpose of mankind.
Absolutely.
But also the service of mankind, right? The service of mankind. That is what Islam is. عبودية خالق وخدمة خلق. The worshipping of the Creator and the service of mankind. And those things emerge together when there's wholeness. And so that becomes front and center. And this is why the healing work is so utterly important today, because no one's speaking to it. And one of the sciences and arts of Islam has always been healing. And making sure that we are, well and strong, and raising well and strong children so that they can continue this legacy of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah into the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. So again, we need to bring it all back to being holistic, being whole, and that means taking care of all these aspects, mind, body, and soul. If we are treating one and not the others, it's not going to work for long. We're not treating us as a whole. So thank you so much for clarifying that. So now we know that Prophet ﷺ talked about healing, growth, integration, and spiritual progress, which leads to a healthy life of a Muslim. So can we talk about emotional intelligence of our Prophet ﷺ and what we can learn from it?
So, when we're small people, so for small people, and when you look at the greats there's only so much that you can see because they're beyond any type of measurement that we have.
Yeah.
You read the seerah, it's clear that the Prophet ﷺ is the best of creation. His generosity, his magnanimous character, his presence, his consistent, determined purpose for the truth, but also with compassion, the way he brought that with compassion. These are beautiful things that you see in the Prophet ﷺ, and you see that he was able to recognize people where they were at in their journeys, understanding that people have different natures. Like people, we talk about the 4 temperaments in Tib and Hikmah, the four main types of essences, if you will, right? The earth essence, the water essence, the air essence, the fire essence. If you understand that principle, that people have different essences and different personalities, and they have different growth arcs, you will have emotional intelligence. Because now you're not going to judge them according to where you are or what you know, but you see them as wholes, W-H-O-L-E, whole, and as people on a journey of becoming, of transformation. And so that becomes something very important. And the Prophet ﷺ, as the best of creation and the messenger, Rasul Allah, the messenger of God, you cannot bring the truth except if you know people and you can understand people and resonate with their truth and their states. And so you find multiple times, there was a time when the Prophet ﷺ was approached by a woman, and the hadith says something along the lines of, وَفِي عَقْلِهَا شَيْءٍ, يعني she's a little bit off, like her mind is a little bit off. And she said, Ya Rasulullah, I have something to talk to you about. So he went and he walked with her through Medina, and until they found a spot that she felt comfortable with, sat down, and then she kind of, told him what was going on. But he allowed that. I mean, busy man, the Prophet of Allah Ta'ala, leader of a nation, father, husband, spouse, all these different roles, and yet this woman comes to him off the street telling him she's a little bit off, whatever that meant, and he walks with her. And another time, maybe perhaps the same lady or a different lady, a small girl takes his hand. And she wants to do the same thing, walk with him, and then go sit down somewhere and talk to him. And he lets her take, probably a little girl, young girl or something, Allahu Ta'ala Alam, but she takes his hand and he walks and he goes with her. There's something of this emotional intelligence there, being able to recognize the need of this individual right now, and being able to attune to her and give her what she needs or he needs, and then to allow for that natural process of growth to emerge. There's something very beautiful, right? The Prophet ﷺ had emotions. People don't like maybe to hear that sometimes because it maybe humanizes him too much. And, the Prophet ﷺ was sad. He became sad. When he lost his son, he was sad. And there's this epic moment where he's holding the body of his son, his 1-year-old son Ibrahim, who passed away. And, he's crying in public. And people are seeing him, Ya Rasulullah, even you have these types of feelings like we do of loss and grief. And he's like, of course. He said, my eye weeps and my heart feels sorrow. But I don't say anything that displeases Allah Ta'ala, but I'm a human being, This is a state that we have access to. And there's gifts in the grief. Grief is one of the main gates of the soul, in fact. We know this now. And, the Prophet ﷺ is described as when he was by himself, he was almost grief-stricken. If you were to see him kind of in his own state with his Lord, it was as if he was grief-stricken. And yet in public, he was smiling and he was present and he was giving eye contact and he was being allowed to interact in the city with, and he was present. And that is the fundamental feature of emotional intelligence, is that you're able to stay with your own self and your emotions and then engage and connect with others. This is an amazing thing you find in the Prophet ﷺ. Did he get angry? Of course he did. The anger of the Prophet ﷺ is not like anybody else's anger, but was it anger still nonetheless? Of course. Sayyidina Umar, one of the main students of the Prophet ﷺ, what was his temperament like? We would say perhaps he was a choleric. He was someone who allowed anger in, and it was for the truth, and it was very strong, and we all love Umar for it, don't we? Radiallahu anhu. But like, this is something of an emotional intelligence that we want to be able to understand, that it's not, it's not spiritual to bypass emotions. It's not Muhammadan, it's not of the deen to not feel or to shame feelings. It's utterly not the truth. And it's actually anti-fitra thinking. Fitra is this natural way of being. We were born on this way of integrity, of wholeness. And any type of talk like that, you invert the fitra. Right? Really, you invert the balance from the beginning.
And I feel like these were all examples given to us so that people that come after them can look at that aspect of their personality and see that there is no shame in having these emotions and expressing them. And, you need to take care of yourself, not only the good emotions, but also you have to deal with all these emotions that allow so much growth ultimately. So all these examples definitely show us that, this is what makes us human. This is what is most important.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Totally.
A sister is asking, but did he release emotions using any spiritual healing?
Did he release emotions using any spiritual? Well, the idea with emotional release is that, emotions get stuck. They're not processed. They're kind of saved in the body. They're saved in the nervous system. And then at some point in the future, you have to release them. But I'm telling you, the Prophet ﷺ was so healthy that he didn't have to release emotions because he was processing them and feeling them as they came. Which is you don't need to heal. If you're eating good food, and nourishing your gut, and your gut lining is strong, and your assimilation is strong, and your elimination, your bowel movements are natural and in sync with nature, and all of that. You don't have to do a fast. You don't have to do a cleanse. You don't have to do a gut cleanse.
Your body will be able to process it.
You're already cleansed. You're already releasing naturally as they come, and so there's no need for that type of intervention. We need to do a fast, like a detoxification fast, a gut repair diet, emotional trauma release, stuff like this, because we are not present with we're not healthy. And the question kind of assumes that Prophet ﷺ was not healthy, and I know she didn't mean it like that, but that's the idea. It's not the case. The Prophet ﷺ, he didn't need it because he wasn't blocking himself, he wasn't stagnating, he wasn't fragmenting, he wasn't suppressing his emotions. He was present with them, and he was showing us how to be in doing so.
Absolutely.
Sallallahu alaihi
wasallam. So now let's bring in energy, something that freaks out a lot of people, especially in our community. We know that ulama say there is a vital source or ruh hawani that flows through us. Is that energy? How would you explain energy, and how do you link it to what we know from our religion, from our basics?
So we have to understand, my apologies here, let me turn this off. So, we have to understand that in terms of the religion, in terms of what we're taught by our deen, that we're spirit. There's this fundamental idea of spirit, ruh. And the physical world, if you will, and the ajsad, the bodies, are informed by the spirit, by the higher, more subtle types of forces, if you will, right? For example, in the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he says that verily in the body there is a morsel of flesh, there is an organ, a tissue.
Right.
If it is sound and healthy, the whole body is sound and healthy. And if that if that organ, the flesh, is not healthy, corrupted in any way, the whole body is corrupt. And he says, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that is the heart. And the ulama say it's not the pump, it's the spiritual heart. It's a spiritual heart, right? It is this more subtle dimension of our beings that when that is healthy or not healthy, it reflects on the physicality. Okay, so things come from the more subtle into the more gross and material. That's the flow of life. Right? Even the commands of Allah Ta'ala, we say they come from higher realms, you know, the Amr of Allah Ta'ala, there's a whole world called Alam al-Amr. This is really kind of maybe not appropriate for Instagram Live, but, you know, the way that Allah Ta'ala's commands descend in creation, they move from, you know, a certain realm to the Malakut, which are the angelic realms, and then those commands are taken by the angels, and then they brought down to dunya, into the lower mulk, the lower world of material, and then it's manifest in that world.
This is so deep. I want all of us to reflect on it for a minute, that this is basically the basis of our deen. This is how our Prophet ﷺ was given the teachings of Quran and everything else. So it's not something new age. It's like the very fundamental building block of our faith, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is communicating with us all through this time, right?
That's true. Yeah. So wahi comes from Allah through the angel Gabriel, right? Yeah. But also the intuition, the ilham, the subtle gifts or the subtle connections Allah Ta'ala sends us, the subtle messages He may give us. Yeah. These are coming from Allah Ta'ala from the subtle. They're not like a letter that you see coming from the sky. Yeah. These are things that you feel in your body, and you know them. Yeah. Same with dreams, right? The dream world. So it's a subtle world. Yeah. And so that is something that we have to appreciate, right? And for example, in my work also in naturopathic medicine, one of the 6 principles, and perhaps my favorite, is in Latin is vis medicatrix naturae, which stands for the healing power of nature. And this lends to the idea of the healing power of the body, which is the ruh, the vital force. The ulama call it ruh al-haywani, the animal spirit, that thing that animates life, that gives life to the body. We're not machines. We're animated by spirit, right? And so that spirit governs emotions, thoughts, feelings, physiological functions, assimilation, elimination, metabolism, hormone balancing, all the circadian rhythms, the menses rhythm, all these different things. Now, we know that when the angel of death comes and takes the soul, what happens to the body? It kind of just collapses into this rubble of clay and dust. What was just in there a moment ago that was giving it life, that was allowing it to understand the world and take meaning from the world and speak and pump the heart by itself automatically and breathe and assimilate the food and eliminate it? Just a moment ago, what was in there? Don't think too much about it. What was it? It was the ruh. The angel takes the ruh, and then the body collapses. So there's a life principle of the ruh. It's the life principle. You don't have to, you can't identify in a microscope. You can't take a sample of it and run it in some PCR machine or something like that. You're not going to be able to do that because it's beyond the material world. It's beyond the scope of our tools. But we know it's true, right? The first ayat of Baqarah, right? Alif Lam Mim. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ الَّذِينَ يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْغَيْبِ. For those who believe in the ghaib, in the unseen. This is a fundamental feature of our deen, is that we believe in the unseen. It's almost in some way more real than the seen. And those of faith, be mindful, the Prophet ﷺ teaches us, be mindful of the firasa of the mu'min, the penetrating insight of the mu'min, for he sees with the light of God.
So beautiful.
He sees with the light of God. What does he see? He sees the subtle nature of reality. The reality of reality. That's not just physicality. It's not cause and effect. It's Allah. Everything is coming from Allah Ta'ala. Everything created by Allah. And so, go ahead.
So is it safe to say that we all have access to those subtleties of life, and if we put our focus towards that, we can get that information?
Absolutely, of course. As Bani Adam, as the cream of creation, if you will, the best of creation, we are made to be khulafa. We are made to be the ambassadors of Allah Ta'ala in our potential. Not all of us now, maybe. May Allah make us khulafa. But in our potential, in our capacities, we are khulafa. We are deputies, ambassadors of Allah Ta'ala in creation. And that's a lofty thing. And our capacity to be whole, health comes from health. Our capacity to be healthy, to be whole, to be connected to have insight into the unseen realms, if you will, not in a goofy way,
right.
in the way of the believers, in the way that Allah Ta'ala asks us to do, the way that Allah Ta'ala will gift you with ilm and insight by practicing the way of the Prophet ﷺ, by following the commands of Allah Ta'ala. You sync yourself with the heavens.
Yeah.
And the body comes into sync with that as well. And now everything becomes healthy.
Yeah.
The heart is healthy, the body is healthy, you're connected.
Yeah.
And so these things will flow. And this is not, hocus pocus.
Yeah.
Atheists will think that when we think that they're, silly and all that. Right? But this is a part of our deen.
Yeah.
And we have to be able to come back to that. And recognizing that energy, you can call it whatever you like, chi, prana, life force, orgone energy. There's so many different words for it. But at the end of the day, it's the ruh.
Yeah.
And it's the life principle.
Yeah.
And as long as we don't lose sight of that, then you're fine.
Yeah.
You're safe, right?
There's one question that I get asked a lot. Again, the same thing that you just covered. Are we trying to cover ilm al-ghaib? What I understand from my just working with different people is that to understand how we work and how we find out all these informations from a human body that maybe is emotional blockages or physical blockages. Like ultrasound was not there 50 or 60 years ago. And at that time, if a woman was pregnant and somebody told them that there is a machine that can tell you like the gender of your baby, it's going to be a lot of like woo-woo knowledge or considered like what are they talking about. But now it's like common knowledge. It's like accepted and acceptable. I feel like that's where that's what we can relate to in terms of energy healing, that even though maybe it's not very mainstream, but if we bring ourselves back to, again, the holistic, the wisdom of the soul and the spirit, then it's easier to understand how we are able to get access to all this information and use it for our benefit, use it to bring holistic healing to a human body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. So there's different ways of accessing these types of things, There's different interventions. And so for some people, recognizing that there's not one size fits all for emotional healing. Yeah. This is really important as well, because you want to be able to extend the best care to people.
Absolutely.
Where they feel safe, where they feel certain. And so people should know, there's different types of therapies. Mm-hmm. And for those of you, that don't maybe mesh with one type of therapy, know that there's other types.
Absolutely.
The point is that you don't just do this therapy. The point is that you do your emotional work. Yes. You do your healing work.
Yeah.
You process whatever block is there that's coming in the way of you being whole and happy and strong and resilient and in your agency and in your full capacity, so that you can worship Allah as He deserves to be worshipped, and that you can bring your gifts to the world, because we need everyone's gifts.
Absolutely, we do. Absolutely. Okay. Another thing is that now the modern research is indicating how our body keeps the memory of everything, and we can access it. Through muscle testing, when we tap into the biofeedback of the body, we get specific answers. Basically, we're accessing that memory field. That is also something that people get confused with, as to how we are able to get that biofeedback from the body. Can you make it a little simpler for people to understand, maybe?
Yeah, this has always been the case. So remember, like with the firasa, we talked about the firasa, being able to apprehend knowledge that is not, maybe on the surface knowable. Yeah. There was times when I believe Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anhu was the Khalifa, and he was holding a majlis, and someone was coming to be in the majlis with him, and on the way he looked at a woman, inappropriately looked at a woman, and he comes and he sits in the majlis of Sayyidina Uthman, and Sayyidina Uthman tells him, you come to this majlis and you've brought, this sin, you've kind of brought this sin here. Right. Which is to kind of lend to the somatic piece, this piece that you kind of stored somewhere. Yeah. And he says, what do you mean? He tells him, you're looking. He says, wow. He's like, is this wahi after wahi? Is this like, is this wahi after nubuwah? Yeah. Is this revelation after prophecy? He says, no. He's like, this is firasa. I see it on your face. I see it all over you. Yeah. And another time when Sayyidina Umar was able to make sense of this woman who was a a witch in some way. She was a kahina. She was a magician. She was a witch, whatever. And he was able to read on her face her evil intent in coming to Medina. And so this is knowledge, right? Now, this is not necessarily something you study in books, right? It's not that type of knowledge. It's not didactic in that way. It's not left brain knowledge, but it's a type of knowledge that you can have access to, no doubt. Right? In the same way, for example, I mean, keep it really simple here, right? In Chinese medicine, you have microsystems. So, for example, the palm is a microsystem. The bottom of the foot is a microsystem.
Meridians.
The ear is a microsystem. Right? Your tongue is a microsystem. Your iridology is a microsystem. So the whole body is reflected in these microsystems.
Right.
So people can just have the hand, and all the meridians move through the hand, and you can just treat the whole body from the hand, or from the ear, or from the tongue, or people take the pulse and can know your personality type.
So that's exactly what I was, sorry to cut you, I got excited because like back home in Pakistan, we used to go to, when we were younger, we used to go to these hakims. They would just put a hand on your pulse and they would tell you, okay, you have some issues going on in your stomach, or your lower back is misaligned and stuff like that. So I feel like you're saying the same thing, that this is how the biofeedback is taken from, like, through different ways.
Yeah, again, so it's not something hocus pocus. Again, we should put a disclaimer though, because people misuse this type of knowledge, and so let's just say the principles are there. There might be frauds. Okay, there's always frauds and charlatans and stuff like that. So be mindful of who you get your care from, and this should be, often mentioned, because if not, people will just go anywhere and say, okay, I heard from Aisha and Mazen that this is something that's good. They go and then they have someone take their money and play with stuff. And, so be mindful of who you get your care from. Make sure that they're legitimate.
Are there any tips you can share with people how to differentiate? And somebody has also asked, like, how to differentiate between firasa and whisper of shaitan. And again, how to differentiate between who's the right person for me. Should they just be knowing from their intuition, again, tuning in and seeing how to tell?
Yeah, I mean, so you want to make sure people are trained, people have transmission, so if people have, one of the surest ways, for example, in Islam has always been ijazah. This tradition of ijazah, and there's the ulama say if it wasn't for ijazah, anyone would say whatever they wanted and get away with it. So the Prophet ﷺ said this, and then quote a hadith, and it's like, oh, okay, you look like you have a beard and you have the jubba and everything, you have the turban, so I'll take it from you. But people that know, that have learned and studied with ijazah, they know that's a fabrication. It's utterly a lie. And so one of the ways of maintaining the legitimacy and the authenticity of the knowledge is making sure that you get trained by someone who has been trained by someone who has been trained by someone, and onwards. This has been the surest way. So making sure that whatever whoever you find is legit. I mean, quite simply, and do your homework and ask who are your teachers, who certified you, who gave you idhn, who gave you permission, right? And it's not bad adab. It may be bad adab maybe in circles of knowledge where people are known widely to come into a majlis and say, who's your teacher? Let me see your ijazah or whatever. But if you're a new patient to somebody and he's or she's trying to sell your services or whatever, ask them. And maybe have testimonials and ask for people's testimonials, and make sure that you feel good about it. I mean, the heart will tell you, your gut will tell you, really. And the Prophet ﷺ told us, "Istafti qalbak," take a fatwa from your qalb. And this is part of that healing where you really begin to honor and trust that voice inside of you that tells you this feels funny. This feels funny, and that even if they talk the talk and they seem like they walk the walk, you have to be careful with people, right? And so find people that you feel safe with, that you feel, for the Muslims, I know for a fact that, I do this work, and as do you, because people are going to non-Muslims and there's no problem technically in going to non-Muslims, but non-Muslims have their own paradigms of belief and perceptions and understandings and the way they interpret things. When we have emotional problems or relational problems in our communities and we bring them to non-Muslims and they say, oh my God, just take off your hijab, or just why do you even have a faith and why do you even believe that anyways, and this is backwards culture, you're American, just do whatever you want. And that's not what we believe at all, and that's very dangerous. And so we have to have Muslims that understand these dynamics, that understand the culture and the religion, are sensitive to it, understand where things come from, and also recognize when things are bad, things are wrong, and can help support that individual through that. So there's no one thing, these are complex things depending on the type of care. Obviously, if you're going to a doctor, you wouldn't go to anybody who doesn't have a medical degree, right? And so making sure that people you're going to are trustworthy, are legitimate, are trained, have idhn if they're people of, that type of knowledge. But these are important things, right?
Yeah, and also look for signs like, for example, if I just talk about, oftentimes I have clients who tell me that I really want to get started and do this emotional healing work, but I'm just not sure. Can you put that surety in my mind? Can you say something that will make me go for it? And my answer to them always is, the answers are within your heart. If I am telling you, it's coming from my brain, my perceptions, my beliefs and knowledge. But what is best for you might not be working with me. It might be working with somebody else. So you need to tune in and listen to what your heart says. And oftentimes it helps them to kind of, trust themselves. It's like giving them a tool that you have the tool, you have the answers. You don't have to go out and ask somebody else to, this path is good for you or that path is good for you. At the end of the day, our job is to empower people, to give them all these tools so that they are like all set on the healing journey, because it's not a one-day thing, right? It's a process.
It's a journey. Yes.
Yeah. So a lot of questions are coming about distance healing. Actually, we are going to talk about it. So yes, how do we make it easier for people to understand how we are all? And I know that's where we started with the concept of oneness and how we are all one. A big maybe organism, and then there are different individual energies. But again, people have a hard time understanding how we can work from a distance and connect to their biofield and do the muscle testing and all that stuff. So how can we put their minds to ease regarding that?
Yeah, so in general, we know that at the level of the heart, which is the level really of the emotions, but the level of the heart, things are connected in their own dimension, in their own plane. So, for example, when the Prophet ﷺ says, "Al-mar'u ma'a man ahab," "Al-mar'u ma'a man ahab," that someone will be with whom they love, right? That is a heart level connection. That does not mean, time, does not mean space is informed by that. So it's kind of beyond space and time in some way. Right. That's why now, when we say the Prophet ﷺ is still alive, he's still alive in his grave.
Yes.
And when you send salat and salam on him on Jum'ah, for example, he receives it and he returns it personally.
Yeah.
Right? There is a connection, it's a personal connection there, personal relationship there. Even though Allah Ta'ala is beyond Rabbul Arsh al-Azim, he's Lord of the magnificent throne, is beyond space-time, he's the Lord and creator of space-time, we can still have this heart-level connection to him.
Yeah.
That's a very beautiful thing, right? And same with, people who are married and people who have kids, and, we feel in different ways, and we have these connections that are beyond space-time, and, people have intuitions about these different things. And so, it's not distance healing in general as a principle. Again, we're talking about principles here, right? There's different ways people can use and abuse this, but in general, the principle is there. And we have teachers that tell us, for example, if you want to go to Medina, like right now, Medina's closed. You can't go to Medina even if you wanted to.
Yeah.
And you say, if you want to go to Medina, go in your heart.
Yeah.
Go right now to Medina and send salat and salam on the beloved sallallahu right now.
Yeah.
And you can, it's as if you're there.
Yeah.
Especially if you've been there before and you know the buildings and you know how it feels. You can go make tawaf at the Kaaba right now in your heart. This is not, people might laugh at that, but there's a type of connection that, time and space becomes unfolded,
I truly believe that 100%. You also shared one example with me once about the person who asked the Prophet ﷺ about being in Jannah with him, and he said that you will be with who you love. So again, the heart connection.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. That's so beautiful. So I hope it answers questions. If there are any other questions about how we are connected and how we are able to establish the connection, we would love to talk about it. So let's now talk about a little bit about energetics of the relationships. And I remember you mentioning about how the polarities attract and the yin and the yang. So let's touch a little bit about that.
Okay. So in terms of energetics, it's not just one type of energy. There's a lot of different types of energy. So for example, just bringing them back to what we talked about with the 4 temperaments. The energy of fire is way different than the energy of air, right? Fire is, it moves upwards, right? It expands upwards. Air moves out. So very expansive. Now we're in the springtime. This is the element of air that's active. And there's a type of expansion now, right? After the contraction of winter, the cold and the wetness of winter, now there's some heat, and now things expand out. And this is the blooming and the sprouting of trees and plants. This is air. So the energy of spring is different than the energy of summer, the hot and the dry. And then as earth, there's now contraction now, right? Cold and dry. After all the moisture has been burnt up by the summer heat, if you will. Now there's dryness and cold. And then the energetics of winter. And so there's a lot of different types of energies. In Taoism, you have this idea of the yin and the yang, right? The masculine, ultimately, the masculine and the feminine. And the Hakims use this type of languaging as well, and the ulama as well, right? So for example, the names of Allah Ta'ala, there's 99 names of Allah Ta'ala that we know. And the ulama oftentimes organize them and differentiate them along Jalali and Jamali subtypes of names. Because we know that the entire world is basically a theater of manifestation of the names of Allah Ta'ala. When someone rises off the couch, that's the name Ar-Rafi',
right?
The raiser, right? When someone opens the door, in some way that is the name Al-Fattah manifesting there, the opener. And so everything is a theater of, it's a madhar, it's a place of manifestation of the names of Allah Ta'ala. So the ulama say there's 2 types, the Jalali and the Jamali. The Jalali is the masculine, the majestic, right? And the Jamali are the more feminine, more beautiful, right? And so the name, like for example, Al-Aziz, Al-Jabbar, Al-Qahhar, Al-Azim, Al-Adil, right? These are Jalali names. Even the way, Al-Muntaqim, the Avenger, it's like, whoa. You don't want that one. MashaAllah. Not against you at least. And then you have, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Ar-Ra'uf, Al-Halim, right, Al-Sabur, Al-Shakur,
Al-Kareem,
Al-Kareem. These are beautiful names. And so in that you have different attractions and repulsion that happens when different people with different energetics that are presenting meet. So, we know, for example, in Alam al-Arwah, right, in the world of souls, in the world of Alastu bi Rabbikum, before we were sent down to earth for our testing, our examination, Allah Ta'ala asked us, am I not your Lord? We all said, Bala shahidna, of course, we bear witness that you are our Lord. In that realm, Allah Ta'ala alam, what space and time looked like back then, and if there even was such a thing, or the mode of it, if there was, and all of that, somehow we were together, and yet we were somehow individual, and we had relationships back then.
Right.
We knew one another back then. And they say now, and this is a tradition of our deen, that when you meet someone now and there's like a familiarity and a attraction and an ease in the relationship, we'd say they must have known each other. They've met before. We have this concept in deen. Right? And those that, find a natural, maybe it's not like a hatred, but like a natural disharmony or discongruence with that person. They say, maybe, our energies were off from even back then, right?
Yeah.
And this is the nature of the world.
Yeah.
And so it's a very natural thing.
Yeah.
And so when we meet people, we find this. I'm sure you've met somebody that says, oh my God, I feel like I've known you forever.
Yeah.
Or you meet somebody and 15 seconds later, you're telling yourself, something about this person I really just don't like.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it. I just don't feel it's something like that.
Yeah.
So that stuff exists, and you want to be sensitive to it. You don't want it to take over your life though. But it's information. It's information.
I feel like that's what like the new age spirituality, they call it vibes. That's what it is. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, vibes, intuitions, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But these are real, and even in terms of like relational work between couples, for example, you want to be able to kind of attune to the different yin and yang dimensions of people. So, for example, a classic picture, right? It doesn't always have to be like this, but the man is very young, active, aggressive. It's the principle of movement, right? And then you have yin, which is more yielding. It's nighttime. It's nourishing. It's building. And so that's the feminine. And so as much as those two are polarized, the healthier. Right? The more like masculine, he kind of needs a more feminine, if you will. And then the more balanced people need other balanced people. Right. And so this is how kind of attractions work. So for example, someone who is, unhealthy, energetically, toxic, they haven't dealt with their problems, they're going to attract in some way unhealthy people. And it's one of the sunnahs of Allah Ta'ala that we've observed, because it seems like Allah Ta'ala, this is my opinion about this, it's like Allah Ta'ala won't let us move forward until we've kind of mastered that level emotionally, if you will, in life. And so we'll kind of like unconsciously recruit people in our life. This is why they meet the same type of person for 10 years. Until they say, enough, I'm not, and they change themselves. And then now they meet someone healthier.
Absolutely.
We all know that, I'm sure, personally or with our friends and family. We all know that, right? We all know that by experience. So it doesn't need to be spelled out to us. We all know that, right? The moment you change, your life changes. Your entire perception of the world changes, the people that you attract changes, what you're interested in changes, the way you speak, what you eat, how you move, everything changes when you change, right? And there's an energetic shift there, if you will, at the level of the vital force. We can say that, it becomes healthier, the level of the ruh, and then everything trickles down from there. And then you meet other people that are doing their work, inshallah ta'ala, and on that path and healthy.
And it's so you have explained it so beautifully. It's just making me reflect on how we can help people that are struggling in their relationship dynamics. First and foremost, we need to understand which energy they are the most predominant in, and then how to balance that. And maybe again that involves the emotional work and trauma work and everything, programming. Yeah,
all of that, of course. I mean, ad-din mu'amala. Ad-dinu mu'amala. Deen is relational, it's transactional. Everything's been relationships. And in terms of the yin and yang, for example, everything is yin and yang to something else. So, for example, my child, right? My child is yin to me. She's receiving my love and my protection and my care and my nourishment, whatever, right? So I'm yang to her, she's yin to me. But she's yin to my friend's infant baby. She's more active. And the newborn is just not even able to, lift their own arms. Whatever, right? But then, like, for example, me to, my teacher, for example, right? Or to Allah Ta'ala, who's young over everything. All of creation, he's young. Because he's the active, he's the creator. So everything's relational. So nothing's fixed. That's the thing with energetics too, which is really interesting, is that you're not stamped with this energy. And it shows because in different relationships, you have different parts of you come out.
I think, in correlation to who you are interacting with.
The role and the style and the mode of the relationship, another type of energy or personality or something like that will emerge. And that's natural. Right? And that comes out because of the energetic kind of predisposition there. So if you're speaking to, for example, your children, you speak differently with them than you do with your friends, for example. Right? And this is a matter of this type of dynamic. Allah Ta'ala alam.
Right. Yeah. So let's take one question. If you have attracted people in your life who are similar energetically in a negative way, how do you separate from that once you have realized you have outgrown that old version of yourself?
Yeah. So if you've outgrown it, and you've healed and patched it up, and really integrated the wound, and you move forward from that, and you've really changed, you're gonna clear it eventually. Allah Ta'ala is gonna take it away from you. You should take different measures. So I mean, it's a general question. This is something that you have to, maybe work through with somebody personally.
Right.
So I don't know exactly what's going on, but in general, you'll find that at least energetically, you're going to start moving away. It sounds like you've already kind of done that. So that's the beginning of it. It gets difficult when they're toxic family members. So for example, you're like in college and you're living at home, going to school, and you're kind of doing this work maybe, and growing up emotionally, I mean, not just physically and physiologically, growing up emotionally and waking up to the need to do this work for yourself. Now, you can get to a point where you feel, I feel independent, I feel clear, I feel like I'm my own self, I've reclaimed my agency, my wholeness in relation to this person. But now you're still in their house, you're still with them. So that gets difficult, obviously, right? And you have to be able to navigate that in a graceful way, while also not harming yourself, not putting yourself in harm's way. And so this is the dance. Everything we're talking about now, again, I have to reiterate it because it's important, are the principles, right? But principles are kind of in abstraction, right? They're kind of in the heavens. They're a very mental kind of thing. In our lives, they may take time. It may not be as clean and as tidy as the principles may make you feel this stuff is. Relationships are complex, and journeys. It's a journey because it takes time for things. You can get it. You can have a transformative shift in one session, and yet then it might take like 6 months to a year for you to actually kind of
take action
and reshift the environment and move out if you have to move out, or have an intervention with the person. Tell them, listen, you're affecting everybody here, and it's you, and we love you, and we want to support you, but like you recognizing that you're harming us, and we're over it. Whatever, you have to. You'll find ways of engaging from your wholeness. That's beautiful. It doesn't have to be aggressive. It doesn't have to be, toxic, but it can be assertive. And it can be healthy. And that's what we look for. Healthy types of aggression is good.
And again, it comes back to you starting work with yourself. I think often we tend to change the other person, whereas first we need to bring the change within ourselves and then see how things shift.
Yeah, things will shift. Allah Ta'ala will shift it. You have to pray.
Yes.
All this work, we have to mention this dimension as well. You have to ask Allah Ta'ala for help at every juncture, at every level. We're always in need. We're always yin to Allah Ta'ala. And so because of that, we're needy. And so we're passively receiving Allah Ta'ala's tawfiq and His taysir and His fadl. And so you ask Allah at every stage to help you, to give you tawfiq and the next level of your growth, the next level of your differentiation, inshallah ta'ala. And so that's important. You do your dhikr, you do your awrad, you make your dua, you wake up in the middle of the night and ask Allah to help you, and He will. There's never been a time in my life where I've asked Allah Ta'ala for something and He didn't give it to me.
And
at some point.
I agree. And then just like, they say that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala puts du'as in our minds and hearts because He wants to fulfill them. Just sitting with this is so beautiful. Like if you feel like praying for something, it's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He already wants to fulfill it. So just trust that and, pray more. And that brings me beautifully to the next point, which is the power of intentions. Because again, when we are working with people, it's our intentions to help them in their healing and everything. And like when I specifically work, I remove emotions. I say I intend to remove the emotions, and the energy releases the body. That tells me intentions are so powerful. So can you just maybe a little bit elaborate about how intentions create a shift in the energy?
The first hadith of the 40 hadith of Nawawi is إِنَّمَا الْأَعْمَالُ بِالنِّيَّاتِ.
Yeah.
All actions are by their intentions.
Yeah.
Meaning that at some level, there's a completion of that thing that you're intending when you intend it.
Yeah.
Right? The action's already done when you intend it, even if you haven't actually physically carried it out, the action yet. Why? Because in some way, Allah Ta'ala records it. You have the light and the ajr of it forever recorded. Even in Jannah, you'll be enjoying the good deed of that intention forever.
Yeah.
That's how Allah Ta'ala works. That's His karam, His jood.
Yeah.
Subhanahu wa ta'ala.
So
but also we know that things are easier, and this is also by experience.
Yeah.
But also, what we're taught, that things are easier. There's tawfiq, there's facilitation when you intend things.
Yeah.
So it's like, I imagine it, Wallahu ta'ala a'lam wa a'la wa ahkam, but he says, I say that and I think that when you make an intention, it's like energetically, the pathway to that thing is like open.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of you kind of flowing down the river to it. It's like you already captured it in terms of reward, and in terms of light of that good deed. But in actualization of that intention, it's facilitated now too. And so there's a type of opening that happens in the unseen because of that. And that's the language of the heart. Intention is the language of the heart. You can actually, in some madhabs, you have to actually say it as well. But generally, the Hanafi school, for Allah, I'm praying, for 4 rak'ahs of dhuhr. You don't have to say that, because the place of intention is in the heart.
Yeah.
So just like just knowing what you're doing is enough.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? I'm here praying for it. Like, I don't have to say it.
Yeah.
And so, again, the heart is the place of the emotions, place of intentions. It's where health begins. And all this is connected.
Yeah.
And so when you intend to do something, consider it done.
Yeah.
Right? And with Allah, it's already done.
It's already
and just a matter, it's already done.
Yeah.
And so this is how people actually are able to fly on the spiritual way. Because they just compound intentions. So they read something, they read Fatiha, and like, I intend this, and I intend that, I intend this, I intend that. And they just made that thing even more potent just by their intention, because they're making it heartful, as heartful as possible.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's the way I think of it. Intentions is the language of the heart, it's the language of God. In some ways, a language of creation. I believe that people respond to intentions, nature responds to intentions, and in actually acting on that intention, it's mubarak, there's blessing, there's tawfiq, right? It somehow paves the way in the unseen for that thing, and it becomes just so much easier to have those things. And so we should all become more intentional people. I mean, the way of Islam is really, at the heart level, 2 things: intention and gratitude. Shukr, right? Shukr is the greatest love language of Allah Ta'ala.
Absolutely.
This is what Allah Ta'ala, Gary Chapman has his book, The Love Languages, the 5 love languages. Allah loves shukr. Really. And we love appreciation too, don't we? We love to be appreciated for things,
Absolutely.
But Allah Ta'ala, because He gives us so much, and it's innumerable blessings.
And I feel like there is a reason for that. When you are in the state of shukr or gratitude, it's not possible to be hopeless. It's not possible to be sad, because both of these are 2 different dynamics, different energies. So that's why we need to stay in that state of gratitude more. And that will prevent us from a lot of maybe other ills.
Totally. And I really believe that. I think that, we have to go back to our deen for the answers.
So Dr. Mazen, sorry to cut you. We just have 1 minute, but I'm going to come back. Okay. So everyone on the call, we might be cut off in a minute, but stay tuned. We will connect again.
Okay, inshallah.
Yeah. So yes, definitely. Amber, you are saying that is this the intention that connects you remotely to the other person? Exactly, 100%. It's the intention, and then understanding the basics that we are all already connected. We are all already one. So that makes it easier, and that makes it work. But again, like Dr. Mazen just said, that it's all about again, good intentions and bad intentions. So where you are putting your focus at, and what is your intention, how pure it is, that will allow you to do the work. Or you can also harm people if you have negative intentions, right?
You can, and you can harm yourself.
Assalamu alaikum, guys, you're back.
Okay, we're back.
We're back. Good.
Bismillah.
All right.
So just one thing that I was saying, I think it's really important to actually just bring this up too. You're saying how positive and negative intentions can affect us, and it's true, no doubt. And one thing that I was just reflecting on, as you said that, was this hadith Qudsi of the Prophet ﷺ, Allah speaking through the Prophet ﷺ, where he says, "Ana 'inda dhanni 'abdi bi." I am in the opinion of my servant. Meaning, and this is what the ulama say, it's like, if you believe Allah Ta'ala to be a force of good and of beauty and of, support and of and the beneficence and all this, that He will be that thing for you. You will see the signs. Every moment, every breath of yours will be something that's fresh and, nourishing from Allah Ta'ala. And if you say Allah Ta'ala is vengeful and He doesn't love me and He treats me differently and this and that, or He doesn't exist at all, then you will live in a world where Allah Ta'ala, you feel Allah and everybody else is negative, hates you, doesn't love you, all these different things, or Allah Ta'ala does not exist. You live in a world of just flatness, flat materialism, and this is something that people have to be very aware of, right? Your belief system in some way, right? You can say you believe in Allah and you're a Muslim, whatever, but in your belief system has to be something that is harmonious with the rahmah, the principle of mercy, the principle of goodness that is in the world, right? And when you do that, your life will be utterly transformed by that. Allah will make it such that is actualized.
Yeah, and that's making me think of, and somebody asked as well about the law of attraction. What is law of attraction? That you create your own reality. Your beliefs create how you perceive life. And this is exactly what you just said, that, we meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala where our thoughts are and how we perceive His mercy or punishment, like either ways.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay. I think we have covered pretty much a lot of stuff. Now there are just few questions from people. Again, we have talked about the energy, how it's mentioned differently in different cultures. Somebody's asking that, is energetic healing used in Islamic history? We use hijama, etc., but never clearing energetically. And also that the concept of ki, chi, chakra, this is all coming from Buddhism and not Islam. So is there any contradiction there, or is it something we need to be aware of?
Yeah. There's no inherent contradiction as long as, we understand that Allah Ta'ala is the creator of the heavens and the earth, and that, things don't have power in and of themselves. We don't give things, power over Allah Ta'ala or independence from Allah Ta'ala. This is where the line, you have to be careful with these types of things, because the systems that these elements come from, and the languaging that they come from, may come from a type of belief system that does not appreciate Allah Ta'ala, for example, being the creator. And so we want to be mindful of that, but not reject the principle that's there. So again, chi, prana, these types of things, even chakras, there's certain schools of spirituality in Hind, right, in South Asia, that took on the 7 chakras.
Yeah.
And they said, these are the 7 degrees of the soul.
Yeah.
For example, right? So you have the root, and then you have the stomach, and then you have the heart and the throat, and the eye and the crown, and all these different things. And then there's the 7 degrees of the soul. النفس الأمارة بالسوء, right? The nafs that compels towards evil. And the nafs al-lawwama, النفس المطمئنة, النفس المرضية, الراضية, الكامل, all these different degrees. So these are different energetic centers and potentials in the body, so forth. So people have taken what they found, points of lata'if, exactly. These are things, people have taken this stuff, and if it doesn't inherently contradict it, they've used it. And this is one of the more fundamental dimensions of hikmah medicine. Because the Prophet ﷺ taught us and teaches us today, because he is living, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, al-hikmatu dhalatul mu'min. Hikmah is the lost riding beast of the believer. Wherever he finds it, he has more right to it.
Yes.
He has more right to it. So when you find something that's true, that meshes with our principles, and is useful for good, then bring it on, for God's sake. So this is why, I use homeopathy. Did it come from the book and the sunnah? I mean, not necessarily. The Sahaba were doing homeopathy. They weren't doing the type of somatic trauma work that I do, or that you do even. But the principles are there, absolutely. And as long as we're not using them to, for shirk or for harm, and we're respecting that this is something that's part of the religion and principle, then there's no problem with that at all. Now, was there emotional release, in the time of the Prophet ﷺ? Well, there's different medicines that are needed in different times. And you have to understand that. So the human beings that lived at the time of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ were, almost like a different species than us. People that lived in the desert, they ate food, only organic, natural food. They breathed clean, crisp, beautiful air. Their water was from the ground. It was unpolluted. They lived in communities and tribes where people felt belonged. They felt, part of something. They knew who they were. They had identity. There was a purity of being back then. So when they became unwell, the type of medicine they needed to rebalance them was different. Like the Hakims, you read books of like 1,000 years ago, the Hakims, they say, if you have migraines or you're infertile, eat some dates, or have some almonds, or have, bone broth and rice for a week, and there you go. And people become better from that. Why? Because if here's the balance, back then people would go like this way off the balance. And it's like, okay, how do I nudge you back a little bit? No problem. But when you're all the way out here, you need now to fix your diet, you need to clean the air in your house, filter the water, heal your emotions, heal the gut lining, restore bowel movement function, support liver function, and then maybe in 5 years we can bring you back to normal human function. And you have to recognize that. A system of medicine now has to be able to appreciate that the world has been ravaged. Really, the earth, water, and the air is poisoned. The mass media, the chronic trauma, the compounded trauma, the atomization, the individualization of our societies into people that are just, on their own, they're feeling alone, they're on their phones, they're disconnected, they're fragmented. The medicine now is different than what they need back then.
Absolutely.
Right? You have to understand this. So did they need emotional healing, whatever? No, probably not, because, they were way healthier, and so it just depends. Every medicine has its own need. There's a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, إِنَّ اللَّهَ لَمْ يُنزِلْ دَاءً إِلَّا أُنزِلَ لَهُ شِفَاءً. Verily, Allah Ta'ala does not send down a disease except that He sends down with it a corresponding cure. Corresponding cure. عَلِمَهُ مَنْ عَلِمَهُ وَجَهِلَهُ مَنْ جَهِلَهُ. Whoever comes to know of that cure knows it. It's theirs. Whoever is ignorant of it, they don't know. They may think it doesn't exist, but those who know. And so that's hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. So there's always remedies, there's always things. It may not be just like have this pill or have this food. It may be a process of discovery and of healing that takes months and years. Oh no, I don't know. It's different. Our medicine is individualized for every patient that comes in. And so, but we have to recognize, this is a fundamental thing. People look back and they say, well, didn't exist back then, so why do we need it now? That's not, it's very simplistic, it's very simplistic.
And it's like you're closing yourself off to what's there for you. Like, nobody's going to come and say that take this healing or take this new pill that has come in to help you. We have to be open. And at the same time, like you said, even if the origin is from somewhere else, use your rational mind. Where is that fine line? Where is that border? How do you interpret that knowledge? And then again, I feel like it comes back to your intentions. So
it does.
Yeah.
It does. This is ijtihad. These are matters of ijtihad.
Yeah.
The ulama are always making ijtihad of new affairs that come up. People didn't have to deal with certain things 100 years ago. Now in postmodern life, we have to deal with certain things. And so we have to have people that are able to extract rulings, new rulings, ahkam and fiqh, for example, that we didn't have to deal with 100 years ago or 1,000 years ago. Same in medicine. We have to have ijtihad. And not everyone can do ijtihad.
That's another important thing to consider. Be careful of where you are getting your opinions from. Okay, so again, very controversial thing, but I feel like we have covered all the grounds where you guys would now be able to understand whether it's halal or haram. But any final thoughts on that when people say, is the energy work halal or haram?
So it's inshallah ta'ala, it's halal. There's no inherent problems with it. But just making sure that you find people that you feel are safe, that are doing good work. I mean, this is the most important thing for us now. There's a lot of fakers out there, people that are doing bad work or harming people or taking their money and all of this type of junk. And so in that regard, be mindful, be vigilant. But in terms of the permissibility of these types of things, this is a need. This is a human need. Emotions are a central component of the human being. It's what connects him to himself and him and her to other people. And we will not be well if we have emotions that are not processed. You can be a saint, and I really mean this. You can be a saint, and Allah Ta'ala gives sainthood to whomever He wants. Without you don't earn sainthood. But you may still be emotionally unwell, or you may be even physically unwell. You may be, obese or have, cholesterol issues or something, and still be a friend of Allah Ta'ala. So it's not, these things are separate. But in the hikmah work, in the healing work, it's about restoring wholeness. That's the whole objective, And and I believe that as you restore more and more wholeness, into increasing degrees of wholeness, of perfection, inshallah Ta'ala, you grow closer to Allah Ta'ala, because your capacity to connect to Allah Ta'ala will increase as you become healthier. Right? Man arafa nafsahu arafa rabbahu. Whoever comes to know themselves deeply knows their Lord. And one of the most amazing ways to really come to know yourself in a very deep way is emotional work. I really don't know anything deeper than that. It's an amazing way to know yourself, to know God, and to respect other people. Again, and just knowing people, and when you meet somebody at a stage maybe that you've been at, and you just be like, oh God, I know what it's like to be like that. I love you and I support you, and you can just intend well, you can make dua for them. And this is the type of rahmah we need to have for people nowadays. It's not just dog eat dog. It's not, you don't just, he's toxic or she's, a narcissist or whatever. It's like, no, man. Like, people are suffering, people are not well, and so for us to heal as a collective, we need the individuals to wake up and be roused to heal their own selves first, to come to know themselves first, and then if every man can mend a man, all men would be mended if we do that, really. But you have to take a responsibility for yourself, take care of yourself, do your own work. It's halal, inshallah ta'ala, but make sure you find healthy people to help you. Somebody saying, is there something such as Islamic meditating other than Salah? question?
Basically, she's saying, how can we meditate?
Meditation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots. There's, in the book of assistance by Imam al-Haddad, he talks about fikr. There's dhikr and there's fikr. And so fikr is reflection.
Yeah.
And it's a short book. It's a short book with short chapters, and he mentions, multiple modes of meditation, of fikr, that you can do. Like, for example, we mentioned one, gratitude for your blessings is probably one of the highest types of reflections.
Yeah.
Because it engenders love in the heart for Allah Ta'ala. And so that's one of the, what more healthy state is there than having love for Allah Ta'ala? What's healthier than that? Give me a definition that's beyond that, And so that's one, but also reflection on death, is a very powerful reflection to have, because that's a reality. And death isn't the end of life; it's just the beginning of a whole of eternity. And so, and just reflection on the ayat of Allah Ta'ala. So open up, the book of Allah Ta'ala, and choose some verses, read them in Arabic if you want, or even in English, and reflect and ponder on them. Don't make tafsir and write books of tafsir on from yourself, but for your own, nourishment. Reflect on certain ayat, and from your own experiences, from your own, knowledge, and your own connection to Allah that is personal right now. Allah will give you meanings. He'll give you reflections, and this is a way to meditate. And just meditating on, for example, the different types of adhkar. So Subhanallah, right? Subhanallah, Alhamdulillah, La ilaha illallah, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. There's no power or no strength or to change anything except billah, through Allah, in Allah. And so these are treasures from the garden, these adhkar. And so being able to use them and meditate on them and become conscious in your wielding of them becomes a shield, it becomes a sword, it becomes a way that you move in the world protected and strong and resilient, and there's usefulness for meditation, just like calming meditation. That's fine too. There's a place for that. But we have our own meditations too that you don't want to throw out, with the bathwater. These are important things that we've used for thousands of years, and people have been healthy and well and died on belief and will be resurrected with the Prophet ﷺ because they use them, and so use them, they work. Inshallah.
Yeah, like praying Surah Fatiha on a glass of water, it actually is now proven scientifically that the molecular structure of the water changes when you pray over it. And there's a reason why it brings healing. So again, like somebody's asking that how is the change brought in so quickly sometimes. So that's how, it's basically just your power of intention and putting your energy in the right way, and then having faith that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to listen to your intention and provide for you. And that's how it happens. It doesn't have to be a long process. Sometimes, yes, there's a process that we have to go through, but sometimes it can be as quick as the miracles that we hear, the stories that we hear, like somebody was miraculously healed. That's what happens. Yeah.
MashaAllah.
Okay, so somebody has asked that sometimes bringing a trauma or wound to the surface, unfortunately, people are not always given the tools to then navigate this. So their question basically is that once we bring all this suppressed trauma to surface, sometimes to go through the processing itself is very, very kind of traumatic. It's like they're again reliving through the process. So how can we as practitioners of our different modalities make sure to give some tools to clients so that they can then have something that they can work on themselves even when they are not working with us? So how do you do that with your clients, for example?
So trauma is a big topic, right? Because not everyone is able to do their own work. And most times really they shouldn't anyways, because historically civilizations, we heal trauma in ritual together. This was the way that we healed trauma. And there was a container that was vast, that contained hundreds of people. That was the container by which one was able to process. now we have at most one person that we deal with, sometimes online, which is great, alhamdulillah. I mean, it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But you have to recognize that, the mode of trauma healing has changed, and the trauma has grown and become larger and more difficult sometimes, in some cases, to address. And so it's not for everybody. It can be actually re-traumatizing for people to do their own work.
Yeah.
It can be re-traumatizing for people that do trauma work who don't understand trauma very well and jump into it too quickly to actually harm them as well.
Yeah.
So trauma is not, there's not one mode of doing it, trauma healing. There's not one trick to at home, use or processing. This is best done with somebody who, really knows trauma. And trauma now, it's not just, most people who do mental health now, for example, and this is not like an attack or anything, it's just, it's true, right? Most counseling or therapy programs now don't emphasize trauma. They don't teach trauma very much. It's like a module.
Yeah.
And given the nature of trauma and the, if you will, pandemic spread of trauma all over the world for the past hundreds of years, we need to be able to be really trauma informed and know its neurophysiology, then know its different levels, know its dimensions relationally, the different structures that emerge from trauma, different relational survival, we call them survival strategies or coping mechanisms or constructs of the mind that come from early childhood trauma, for example, and stuff like that. And so it's not so easy. I don't like talking about it very much in public, giving resources, even for patients that ask me, what can I do at home? I tell them, just go for a walk.
Yeah.
Go into the woods and don't do anything there. Just go into the woods and be with nature. Be in nature. Resonate with something that's healthy, that's living, that is present, that is just being, it's pure being, like being in the woods. And you'll be, and that's probably the greatest grounding that you can do. The greatest, support of your integration that you can do. Dancing, singing, easy flowing types of exercise like qigong and yoga, things that help with the flow, with the movement of the qi, movement of the blood, the emotions will shift this way slowly. And, finding someone who knows homeopathy can be very useful. I mean, finding people that do trauma therapy can be very useful. But there isn't like a one-way thing. I don't want someone to go and get the idea they can go right now after signing off here and start jumping into their old wounds, and that can be a disaster for some people. It's not for everybody.
Yes, it's not. And sometimes even while working with people, we as practitioners have to be very careful about where this is going and then kind of change path before we get to actually deal with the root cause issue. First, maybe there are upper layers that need to be taken care of before they are ready to handle that trauma and everything that they went through. So again, it comes down to talk to your heart, use your intuition, and work with a trusted person who you feel comfortable with, because it's very important that person who is a part of your very beautiful personal healing journey is somebody you feel safe with, you feel safe to open up with, share yourself with, and then they hold that space for you. So just something to keep in mind. Right. One last question, Dr. Mazen, is somebody's asking, healers connecting with moon energy and tarot cards. What do you say about that?
Not my thing. Tarot cards come from a tradition of the Kabbalah and these types of things, with the occult. We don't want to take that. If you take things from Taoism, you take things even from, traditional Confucianism or Hinduism even, because Hinduism originally was, I believe, at least, a monotheistic religion. It became paganism, like most Abrahamic, most prophecy, most teachings of Prophet alayhim as-salam ajma'in, they started as worshipping Allah Ta'ala and guiding to the one, and then idols trickled in. And so Allah Ta'ala, I think that Hinduism was like that as well, and so a lot of the Ayurvedic type practices and stuff like that are still true because of that. But when you get stuff like from the occult, like tarot cards and tarot readings, and Allah Ta'ala alam, some people may be able to, really understand that and make use of that.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't like it though. My gut tells me stay away, so I stay away.
Yeah.
I do medicine. I don't want to do like astrological readings, and it's a whole other domain,
Yeah.
The ulama had an understanding of astronomy and astrology.
Yeah.
They did.
Yeah.
We know even the sign that the Prophet ﷺ was born in.
Yeah.
We know the sign. We know that where the sun was. We know where the moon was when he was born. So that tells you that ulama had a concern, had a curiosity, had this knowledge.
Yeah.
But in terms of tarot cards and that stuff opens up to other dimensions that may not be healthy, and so I don't like it. Moon reading, the Prophet ﷺ spoke to the moon. During the new moon, he says,
Dua.
Rabbi wa Rabbukum Allah, my Lord and your Lord is Allah Ta'ala, and he spoke to it every new moon. So he was connected to the moon, but to, kind of get like astrological information and stuff like that, horoscope.
Yeah.
I'm not.
So,
I'd rather you get your intuition, your signs from yourself.
Yeah.
By being totally connected and worshiping Allah Ta'ala and receiving the waridat, what they call the waridat. You do your wird, you do your ibadah, your daily routine, and Allah Ta'ala sends you waridat, which are like gifts and intuitions. And so
then what?
read the waridat.
Is it the same as what we call istikhara in our belief, in our faith? Like when you have a question, you ask directly from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and then you look for signs and answers within yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I believe, to make it very easy and simple, this is not something that we relate to or able to or even want to justify being right or wrong. So again, use your own, basically discern, and there's a thin line between energies as well. So you want to make sure that the energies that you align with are something that is for your highest good and not opening up a portal that might harm you.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Even ruqya, for example, I have my teachers that say, like ruqya is real. I mean, we need that. We have people that do ruqya, and we need them. But also, like, I asked him personally, should I do ruqya? Should I train to be a raqi? He said, he's like, just don't open up that door. Because once he's like, you can if you want, but if you do, you're gonna have to. Your life will change. Because now there's a type of opening to that realm.
Yeah.
And you're like now, like they see you now as like kind of a portal or a bridge, and they may take advantage of that. And so he says, you have to live a whole different life, and your family becomes very susceptible to harm that way too. So he's like, just do your medicine. Let other people that are maybe more inclined and maybe, whatever, to do that. But he's like, you have good work, just stick with your work. Right. The idea, and this is ruqya, we know this is true. It's like you don't want to dabble in these things always, blindly. Yeah. It's not, you want to have knowledge, talk to your teachers, pray your istikhara. Really, these things are not things to play with. Yeah. Right? Yeah. And so be mindful of that.
Yeah. And if you feel like it's not like something for you, then step back. Maybe you don't have the capacity to hold that knowledge at this time.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, awesome. So I believe we have covered everything. A lot of great feedback, Dr. Mazen. As always, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. One last thing, please let everyone know how you can support them. What are the kind of services that they can get from you, and how to reach out to you.
Okay, mashallah. So you can find me on Instagram at Forward to Health. I'm on Facebook as well. I have a website building, so look on forwardtohealth.com will be up in the next a few weeks or months. But in the meantime, you can reach out to me via social media. You can email me. I am doing programs, every few months now. I'm planning on doing webinars soon, so more course content. People that want to learn this type of medicine, learn homeopathy, for example, learn how to live in harmony through their diet, through their movement, through their sleep, stress management, their relationships, offering courses on relationships soon. And then also just my clinical work. So I have an office in Chicago, Illinois in the US, but I have patients and students all over the world. So if you're interested in doing your work, we use homeopathy, we use herbs, hydrotherapy, I do trauma work, and other things. And so these are important things. I'm at your service, inshallah ta'ala, of you and your family. So if you're interested, you're welcome to reach out to me and begin your healing journey today, inshallah ta'ala.
Absolutely. And I just want to share my own experience working with Dr. Mazen. I just had one session, and the breakthrough, alhamdulillah, that we had in those 45 minutes was something that I was not able to comprehend for the last 3 years of my life. So that's how strong and powerful and beautiful his process is. So please make sure to check him out and allow him to help you with your well-being. So now, having said that, Dr. Mazen, any last words? I know that the work we are doing is need that is not being met in the community yet. So what would you say as your last words to somebody who was a skeptic? I hope we covered that. I hope you guys are now more at peace knowing that this is the work that's going to help you. Any last words to share with people just to encourage them to take care of their emotional nourishment and emotional well-being?
Yeah, mashallah. So, we have to know that these things are important. I hope that was expressed to you here. The work has to always be something that we are always calibrating. We're always kind of tuning to what does the moment need now, And, this is the work of the Hakims. Like, where is we call it the obstacle to cure.
Yeah.
Is it poisons in the environment? Is it bad food? Is it relationships? Is it whatever? There could be individually a number of different obstacles to cure. Mm-hmm. But if I was to say there is one obstacle to cure for the world collectively right now, the major one, it's trauma. It's emotional trauma.
Right.
This is what gets in the way of us being able to help ourselves.
Yeah.
Help ourselves to respect ourselves enough to eat well and drink well and find healthy partners and relationships and this and that. So it gets in the way of our lives very dramatically every single day. And so that becomes the beginning. Usually I do diet stuff, whatever, first, but now I've been shifting my emotional work first.
Yeah.
Like if there's emotional work to be done, I say, let's start with that, and then we'll make the diet changes, whatever. Because if you don't feel like you're worthy, or lovable, or this and that, there's a very deep block within you to be able to accept nourishment.
Yeah.
And so even if you're switching to all organic and you're finding healthy people in your life again, you won't be able to make it useful for you, beneficial for you.
Yeah.
So the idea is do your work. Everyone has their work to do. No one gets out of childhood unscathed. I really believe that.
Yeah.
You don't have to have this major capital T trauma, big fireworks trauma. The trauma of neglect, the trauma of abuse, the trauma of not having people there for you when you needed them most.
Yeah.
Or being so loving and clingy that you wanted your own independence, and this type can be kind of smothering and suppressive effects on you that can have trauma expressions. And so you want to be able just to take care of yourselves, do your work. There's hope. You have to recognize that there's hope. Inshallah ta'ala, and I hope that, was communicated here. People are doing their work every single day. They're freeing themselves from these emotional wounds, the shackles that hold them down, that come in the way of them being healthy, of being able to hold healthy relationships, to worship Allah Ta'ala as He needs to be worshipped, and they're coming back to life. Yeah. It's a very beautiful thing to watch and support, and this is what we need today. And so, the call of Islam is calling back to life. And we do that with the life principle in mind and supporting that process. And so, inshallah ta'ala, I wish you all the best. I invite you all to your own journeys, whether with us or with anybody else. It doesn't really matter. Just do your work.
Yeah.
Heal.
Yeah.
Allah, the Prophet ﷺ would ask for afiyah for the ummah.
Yeah.
The dunya wal akhirah. So we ask Allah ta'ala for afiyah. The dunya wal akhirah, the comprehensive wellness, not just spiritual wellness, but really physical, emotional, physiological wellness. Being able to move properly, having good structural health, posture, so you can move in the world and be pain-free, so you can lift the burdens of others and yourselves and help people. And we need all hands on deck. And so for God's sake, take care of yourselves. Let this year be, we're in quarantine now, let this be a year of self-care, of taking care of yourself, of doing your work, so that when this quarantine this jalal of Allah Ta'ala is manifesting right now, right? This rigor of Allah Ta'ala is manifesting over the whole globe is released, we can come with jamal to the world and save the world and restore the world and be sources and beacons of good, inshallah Ta'ala.
So beautiful. And it again comes back to what is your true purpose in life, to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and serve His people. So by working on yourself, that's exactly what we all will be doing.
Alhamdulillah.
All right. Thank you so much, Dr. Mazen, again, for your time, for your wisdom. Always a pleasure. And inshallah, we need to do this more often. People love having you here and,
Inshallah.
Absolutely.
Alhamdulillah. It was a pleasure. Thanks for having me, inshallah.
You are most welcome. So for everyone watching, we are going to record, we have recorded this live and I will put it on either on IGTV or YouTube. We just have to see how long the video is and everything. Once all the logistics are done, I will share on my stories and Dr. Mazen will also inshallah share.
Inshallah ta'ala.
All right. Assalamu alaikum, everyone.
Assalamu alaikum.